All right, wrestling fans, it's Kurt Clapier here with highschoolwrestlingmatches.com. We got Brian Priest on the line again, and we have a great guest tonight. You're in for a treat. He's one of my former coaches. All the technical side of wrestling that I understand is because of this man. He coached me back in high school, back in the elite days, and it's Greg Williams, head coach of UVU. So tonight we're going to jump right in and do a UVU preview show. We're going to kind of talk about what you can expect from UVU wrestling, what events they have coming up that you might want to pay attention to and be at, and possibly most importantly, make sure you stay tuned until the end because we're going to reveal the Utah Wrestling Hall of Fame inductees for the year 2016. 2006 happened 10 years ago. But all right, Greg, how you doing?
Doing great. It's good to be here.
Good. This is awesome. And Brian, you're here with us, right?
Yep. I'm ready to go and excited about being here.
Okay. Well, let's start off first, Greg, by talking a little bit about the UVU team this year. We're coming back from an exciting year where you got your second All-American. And where is he, by the way? What's he doing now?
Well, he's had a few job offers that he's looked into, and he'll be applying for there's a new post. It's also USA Utah is as now advertised. They'll start interviewing next week, and there already looks like there's some good applicants. But Jade's also interested in that position, and so if he's able to get it, he'll stay in Utah for a little while.
What is the job? That's new to me.
It's a new coaching position for USA Utah. They have the board passed that last week, and so it's somebody who's going to market and recruit and make sure that all of our top wrestlers from Utah are getting the opportunity to wrestle in the off season, try to build Utah's presence on the national scene, and just like with Taylor Lamont recently, continue to get more guys wrestling on the international scene. They would be going out to schools all across the state, doing clinics for each of the programs, recruiting parents and kids, making our national development program better than what it already is.
Awesome. Sounds
great. Sounds like some big things afoot. So before we gotta get into things, how would you assess USA Wrestling Utah and how it's contributing to your program?
That's a great question, Brian. I appreciate that. When I took the job at UVU, there had a vision of it being a Utah program. It's the only program in the state, and so it really is Utah's program. And in order to be able to accomplish some of the things that we set forth, being involved with the wrestling community, using Utah as our main recruiting source, there are other people had to buy into that. And USA Utah, their vision for what they're doing with their youth, they saw, hey, we've got a college program. Let's take the energy from that and see what they can do to help us build this program. So we've been working hand in hand, trying to make sure that we're getting more and more Utah kids at that level to get it to the D1 level, trying to provide opportunities for them. And not all Utah kids are going to stay, but the ones that are really good, we're hoping that we get a good majority of them and that they stay in Utah. Our vision is to have them continue to be involved with wrestling, coach, stay in Utah, and coach programs, and that's the same vision that USA Utah has.
Yeah, I'd like to announce real quick, maybe a lot of people out there that will listen to the podcast might not realize this, but yeah, one of your top recruits, or the top recruit, Taylor Lamont, just won the bronze medal at the Junior Worlds, and that's real exciting. Have that kind of recruit. But Greg, let's talk a little bit about the team and what you would expect your lineup to be, and if there are a couple of guys vying off for spots, maybe enlighten us. What weight classes are going to have some pretty intense competition for that number one spot.
Okay, yeah, I'll break it down. I'll just go through the weight classes real quick. We still are looking for the depth. We'll have more depth next year when we pull our guys out of redshirt. We had a pretty good recruiting class. So at 125, we have two 125-pounders. But Mitch Brown, is definitely the head guy there. Most people know Mitch. He was a three-time state champ and one-time runner-up at Payson High, and he went to Air Force for a year before his mission and then came to Utah Valley after. So he'll be a sophomore this next year, and he looked pretty good at University Nationals, just misplacing by one match. But he's coming around nicely, and we're looking for some good things out of him. At 133, we've got Jared Maines, who was at 141 last year, and he's looking at, he's basically been a 33-pounder, but with Rouser at 33, he helped us out at 141. So he dropped down, and he looked really good at the universities. He's had a year of varsity under his belt. He's a workhorse. He works really hard. And it looks like he's progressing to the degree that he should have a pretty good year this year. We really don't have a backup right now because we're trying to redshirt the couple other kids that we have there, but we'll see what happens. At 141, Trevor Wilson, who's been at 149 the last 2 or 3 years, he's dropping down to 41. He's of the guys that are going to start this year, he probably looks the toughest, and if he believes in himself, he should have a really good year. He's had some troubles in the past really putting it out there in the competitions, but great work ethic, and he's looking really good. So
where's Trevor from?
Trevor's from Arizona. He actually transferred from Arizona State after his freshman year. So he redshirted there, and then this is his 4th year as a starter for us.
I just wanted to say that because it might be somebody that some of the listeners might not be familiar with. So
yeah. So Trevor's our only senior this year. At 149, right now it looks like it'll be Grant Lamont, who we redshirted last year. We really don't have the depth there right now, but we do have Landon Knutson just came back off his mission, and we'll try to redshirt him, but if something happens where Grant's hurt, we'd step him in. Grant has some great background for, I think most everybody who's listening would know his background, but he was a 3-time state champ. One year, his freshman year, he was 3rd. He's done really well on the national level. Had a tough adjustment coming back from his Mexico City mission on a year ago. Everybody who's done that understands that it's a pretty tough year, just getting your body back, getting your instincts back. So he's started looking really good. Late spring, some stuff starting to click, starting to look better. So we're hoping for some good things out of him. At 157, we'll have Raider Lofthouse back. He started for us there last year, and so he'll be a sophomore this year. And he's been working hard and hoping to get rid of some inconsistencies that he had. He's working on the things that slowed him down last year, so hopefully he'll make a step forward and get himself a chance to get to nationals and do something there. 165, we thought we were going to have Kimball Bastion there. Kimball wrestled 163 at 3 of the spring tournaments. Went to the qualifier for the World Trials, then went to the World Trials for the juniors, and then went to the University Nationals. And he looked really good in the first 2 and beat some really, really good kids. And the last one, he just looked sluggish, didn't look that good. And so towards the end of the summer, he and I sat down and talked, and felt like the weight cutting was just kind of affected him a little bit. So the year before, because he was going to redshirt, we kept his weight up, and he wrestled at 174 and wrestled really well there. And so we're going to move him there, which opens up 165. And we've got mostly it's going to be some freshmen that we brought in, a couple guys vying for that, and then Dalton Harmon, who's been at 65 before. We redshirted him last year, is going to come down to 165 also. And he's had an injury that's nagged him, and he hasn't been on the mat all spring or summer. So we're not really sure what to expect, but he's gung-ho to get down and have a go at it. So have about 3 guys there that will battle it out.
So who's the other 2 guys?
Well, I thought we'd talk about them when we talked about our recruits. So
all right, sounds good.
But they're just this year's recruits, kids that came in first year. Then 174, Kimball will be there. We also have Kiefer Taylor, who was our starter last year at 65 until he got injured. We're going to try to redshirt him. He didn't get hurt until January, and so we're hoping Kimball can stay healthy and we won't have to pull him out. Then at 184, we have Will Sumner, who was our 84-pounder last year. He's out of California. He'll be a sophomore this year also. Kimball's just a freshman. Grant's just a freshman. I didn't mention that. Jared Maines is a junior. But at 84, Will is a sophomore. He's been working hard. His footwork's looking a little bit better. His hand fighting's getting much better. So we're expecting a big jump from him this year. 197, we've got a kid who's a freshman. He was a walk-on last year, and he just kept getting better and better. And his name is Tanner Orndorff. He's out of Oregon or Washington, excuse me. His dad wrestled at Oregon State. But anyway, he's come along. He's got some development still to go, work on his speed. He's a little bit more of a lumbering type of wrestler, so get heavier hands and get his feet to move a little bit more. But we're expecting him to, progress as the season goes. We really, backup-wise, we do have a kid, Ayrton Almberg, who stepped in when Derek Thomas was hurt last year. So he does have some experience. Then at heavyweight, we've got two heavyweights that we had last year, and Dustin Dennison and Jordan Kars, and they're both just right on the cusp. And if we can just get them a couple more little things working for them, then whichever one of them ends up starting should have a shot to make it to nationals this year.
Sounds great. Talk a little bit about the recruits. Obviously Taylor Lamont's big, but it sounds like you got some other really nice recruits.
Yeah, 133, we actually, for right now, we have two recruits that are both top-notch. They wrestled each other in the finals of the Flow Nationals. One was Taylor Lamont, who was a 4-time state champ, and as you mentioned, just won a world medal. He's been a several-time national champ and was the overall 19th ranked guy in the country last year, regardless of weight. Taylor obviously brings a lot of things to the table. We love his attitude. It doesn't matter what the situation is. He thinks he's going to win, and he'll usually find a way to do that. In the finals of the Flow Nationals, he wrestled, we call him DJ Durbin Loren. He's out of California. He's been a state champ out there for Buchanan High School. Very, very tough, very slick wrestler. We're super excited to have him out. And like I said, those two wrestled in the finals against each other at Flow Nationals. There's a chance that if one of their weights is a little bit lighter than the other and could make 25, we may bring somebody down to 25 in the future. If they grow, we might spread it out that way. But it'll be interesting because at 141, Matt Finley just got back from his mission, and he's here wrestling with us. Most people know him. He was a 4-timer out of Alta High. And he signed with Boise, but while he's on his mission, changed his mind. So he's here, and he's for being out 2 years, he sure looks good. He's confident, he's wrestling hard, and excited to see what he can do. But another kid at 41, he's a freshman, but he redshirted last year, is Chase Call, who's out of Idaho. Chase has come a long way in this past year. Another kid who returned from a mission, and so he. Was getting his timing back, but he looked really good also at University Nationals and really made a jump there. So even though Trevor's probably our guy there, we feel pretty strongly that if he gets hurt or whatever, that Chase will be able to step in and be competitive. So we're looking really good in our weight class at 33 and at 41. So we have some depth there, and we have some really, really solid red shirts, and we're super excited to get to the following year and get them in the lineup with our other good guys that are stepping in this year.
It sounds like definitely, Taylor's got a red shirt this year. That's the definite plan there.
Well, the plan is to redshirt, except for at 165, the plan is to try to redshirt all the guys. What we've been building, we had a great recruiting class a year ago. We had a good recruiting class this past year with these guys that we're talking about. And we really have the lead on a few guys that might surprise some people, in another 2 months when we do the signing, that really is going to put a good class together. But it's going to take us a year or two to get these guys the experience and where we feel like they can be, where they're stepping on the podium multiple years. And so we're excited about the next couple years of development. We think the third year from now, we're going to be, I don't know where our rankings will be, but I'm sure that if we can keep them healthy, that we're going to be a highly ranked team with several guys going to nationals with a chance to be on the podium, with a couple of them with a chance to win it.
That sounds exciting, but it might be a year or two away from.
Well, like I said, we don't have one guy on a team right now that's been to the NCAA tournament. That's not a lot of experience. And so we lost our 3 best kids from from last year, and so you've got to make up that leadership. You still have to have that experience where you beat those guys and know that you're going to win in those situations. So we're excited. We feel like we have some guys that can do that, and we usually have some surprises of guys who step up. I mean, when Chase Tolbert, when he was coming in, and he just made a huge jump between his sophomore junior year, and all of a sudden he's being ranked. And we feel like we've got a couple of those guys in the lineup right now. And just all the way through, there are several guys that could step up and end up being in the top 33, maybe the top 25, a couple in the top 20. We'll see how it goes.
Tell us, if you can, I don't know what the rules are right now, but what maybe juniors or seniors in high school, especially the seniors, are you looking at to recruit or?
Brian, let me go back. There's still a couple guys. We signed Corey Wilkinson. He's one of the kids that's going to go to 65 this year.
Okay, yeah,
that we're looking at starting. We also have a kid who walked on from New Mexico. That's a pretty solid. Those 2 guys will probably battle. We have a 3rd guy, and he was one of our top recruits out of Oregon. He's a 3-time state champ. His name's Gary Yonser. He's put on some good weight lifting this summer, so we're not sure. He says he can make it. He wants to go down. But I would actually like to redshirt him. We'll just kind of see how things play out. If he cuts down and is the dominant guy there, then we'll give him the spot.
What weight is that again?
At 165.
All right.
But so we have a few guys there that are going to battle for that position, and a couple of them are some good 2 of our top recruits. And then we have a couple of walk-ons that we're really excited about. That lighter weights. One of them is Heston Woolsey, and Heston, had gone on a mission and came back, and he's actually working hard, and somebody that might be able to help us out down the road. And Austin Trapp, a kid from Paiute that, a lot of people didn't know him because he was from a smaller school, and he has a lot of stuff to work on his feet, but he's pretty good on the mat, and he's working really hard right now also. So that's a group of our incoming guys. As far as recruits, I can't talk about who we're recruiting.
Okay.
But I can say, I can say that we have 5 Utah guys that we're going to bring out this fall that we're very interested in. It wouldn't take a lot to figure out who they are, based on the guys. As you look around, who's done well, like in Fargo recently, who's done well, at the state tournament in multiple years, and has done well nationally. So it probably wouldn't be that big of a guess for most people to see who that was. There's a couple guys that we like that we're talking to that have great work ethic that haven't done anything nationally. They've done okay in Utah. As you guys are aware, that you could be a 2, 3, 4-time state champ in Utah, but if you're not beating guys on a national level, you're starting a little bit behind, and it makes it a little bit longer of a project for us to develop and give them that confidence at that level.
And it's kind of hard too, maybe, to really truly assess their abilities, other than.
Hey, Greg.
Yeah.
My internet glitched out for a second, and I was keeping notes here. I wanted to put up. Can you guys see this?
Yep.
I can see it.
Okay. So help me fix this. So we got Mitch Brown at 125. That's where you had him.
Yep. Jared Maines is 33.
Maine's from?
What's that?
Where is Maine's from?
He's from Spokane, like up around Spokane, Washington.
Okay.
Good wrestling area.
Yeah, and he's done well. He has a win against Earl Hall to his credit in high school. It's one he reminds us of, which is still a shocker because Jared is not the fastest guy in the world, and Earl Hall is one of the fastest I've seen. So anyway, Jared Maines was actually a walk-on. and then went on his mission, and then redshirted when he got back, and then this is his third year back, so he's a junior this year. But man, he just super proud of him. He's such a workhorse and does real well. He's also has one non-A in his whole career in college. Does really well in the classroom. So
That's awesome.
yeah. So then Trevor Wilson, and then also at 141 is Chase Call.
Chase Call. Okay. So they're going to be battling it out.
Yeah, from Idaho. Then you got Grant Lamont. You got Raider Lofthouse.
Harmon's from Juab, right? Did I have that right?
Yep, Dalton's from Juab. He'll be a sophomore. And then you have
naming these freshmen that were coming in.
You got Coy Wilkinson and
maybe I'm wondering if you said Dalton was back from a mission?
No, Dalton wrestled for us at 65 2 years ago, redshirted last year.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering if him and Coy have met in high school. I'm thinking they might have. Of course, I think Coy would be a couple years behind him.
Who's the other name besides Coy? I didn't hear it.
Kyle Snelling, who's from New Mexico.
Spell Snelling for me.
Nellling.
Snelling.
No, you with the S. I was just going with what you'd already.
I was like, wait a second. Okay. All right, Kimmel Bastion. Keep going.
Yeah, so you possibly have at 165 Gary Yonser, which is with a J. So and he's the one from Oregon. So it's Jantzer.
Tzer.
Zer after the T.
Like that.
Then Kimmel Bastion at 74. Kiefer Taylor redshirting there. Kiefer's from Arizona, but he also wrestled 2 years in Utah.
The mountain. Yeah.
Yeah. Then at 84, Will Sumner.
All right.
Yeah, and he's from California, and I didn't talk about Abel Gomez. Abel's from Vegas. He's been injured the last couple of years. He's not back on the mat yet, but it's EL. But anyway, he's got some experience, and if he can get his confidence up, he could help us there as well. So, and then 197 was Tanner Orndorff out of Washington. He's also up by the Spokane area. And then at heavyweight, you got Dustin Dennison and Jordan Karst.
And where's Jordan from?
What's Dennison's first name? Dustin?
Yeah. Dustin, Tin, Dennison.
Pleasant Grove kid.
Right?
Yep. And then Jordan Karst, who's out of Nevada. He's from Vegas as well.
Well, you know what I like? It's great you have a lot of Utah kids, but you also have, some from out of state, and I think there's nothing wrong with that. You just want to have the best. We want to have the best team out there, and
Greg, where do you see your two? And you might have said this when my internet glitched out, but where do you see Lamont and I always forget his name, but the stud from California?
DJ and Taylor this year, right now, if they redshirt, will go 133. They both.
You're thinking they both redshirt this year?
That is the plan right now. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you, like when you redshirt, how many matches could a kid have in these open tournaments and stuff like that?
20 to 30. Our goal for them is to have at least 20 matches. So, and the good thing about DJ and Taylor is they can afford to go to some of the meets we're going to, so they can fly themselves, because we can't pay for a red shirt to go anywhere. So it's kind of nice because they're planning on going to the Iowa State tournament. I think they're planning on going to the Scuffle. And so they'll end up getting more of a nationwide, look than when we're just going to these regional open meets and they see mostly the same schools in the West.
Is that, Greg, sorry, is that Tanner Orndorff, right?
Yeah, it's he's got it right, except no W and then two Fs.
Yeah, like you said, his father was an Oregon State wrestler, right?
He made the finals at the
Yeah,
NCAA.
I can remember. So there's some good genetics there for sure.
And Jordan is Karst.
Okay.
A-R-S-T. Karst. Okay. Well, I heard you announced it with Erkeen, and we wanted to talk a little bit about your coaching staff because it sounds like there's some exciting things going on with that, and I guess you made Erkeen an associate head coach. Um, and tell us a little bit about that. It sounds like he's going to take on some more responsibilities. And
Well, he's actually been the associate head coach for a couple of years now. I don't think it was ever advertised. And then at the golf tournament, I mentioned that, so you probably picked up on it there.
that's real neat.
Yeah, but, it's very common when you have your first assistant coach is there for a while, and they're taking on a lot of responsibility to make them the associate head coach. And then with both of the loft houses, with Ethan and Luke, it's just a title. I mean, it's a title. We're trying to pay them what they all deserve, and it's very similar in salary with what we support them with the USA Utah UVU events that we raise funds for. We try to supplement so that they're all getting the salary that will keep them here. And so we're excited about all three of those guys. They're all very, very knowledgeable with the sport. They're very committed to the program and to each and every one of our individual wrestlers. So our wrestlers are excited about the coaching staff. They know they're getting well taken care of. They like the technique they're getting. We push them hard. Our conditioning the past 2 years has been very good. So we've been excited with that.
Just with Erkeen, it's just been exciting to me to see him develop as a coach, and just how shy he used to be, and now he's just just right in there, and just coaching and mingling with the alumni and supporters, and just a good guy, good find. And like I said, I'm happy. It's good to have that title for him. I think he's earned it. Well,
one thing people don't know about Erkeen, I think anytime you have a language barrier, where you can't communicate very well, like when Erkeen first got here. Even when I first had him on the staff, it's hard for me to know what his intelligence level is, just sometimes because of a communication gap. But one thing I've learned over the years about Erkeen is he's extremely intelligent, and he picks things up very fast. Every duty that I've assigned him, he might struggle with certain parts of it to begin with, but once he grasps what it is that needs to be done with it, he takes it and runs and does a very, very good job with it. So
I don't know how Kurt is, but I always, like, when I was training, my assistant coaches, I definitely, if I were to have a heart attack and die out on the mat, I wanted to make sure they were ready to go. And I think Erkeen has reached that level that he could make a real good head coach someday. And
don't jinx Greg, Brian.
Well, I don't want Greg to kill over and die. Trust me. You just leave that to whoever, okay? But you know what I'm saying. I get
what you're saying. You want a good assistant. You got one in our team for sure.
Asset to Greg and so forth, and having the loft houses, because everybody in Utah knows those guys and what they've accomplished and stuff like that.
Yeah, Greg, just props to you, man. You've done an awesome job, both the recruiting wrestlers as well as coaches. It's impressive. Good job.
Well, thank you. And that is a staff effort. So, we work as a team, and all of us have responsibilities. And so, we have 3 of our coaches that can recruit. So, it's not any one person. But it has been a great cohesive effort. And like I said, with the recruits, I think some people are going to be pretty excited about what this signing class is going to be as well. Like I said, we have a few Utah kids, and then we have a few in California and a couple of other places that we're bringing out in this next month that, like I said, that right now it looks to be that we're in the lead with the recruits, with those recruits. So 1 or 2 of them, it's an uphill battle, and we've lost a couple already that, didn't want us to be one of their 5 visits or their top 2 or whatever. But is
that a rule? They can only take 5 visits?
Yeah, you can take 5 visits. You can do unofficials, but only 5 officials. And really, you know, with
What's
schools,
the difference? Officials paid for by the school?
yes.
Yeah, that's
Yeah. But
you want to have those. So you have 9.9 scholarships, right?
yes.
And you got to divide those up a bit, I suppose. And
Yeah.
where does the academic prowess sort of fit in with that? You know, when you're, uh, I imagine hopefully some of these kids can get some academic assistance and maybe take the pressure off there.
Yeah, that's a great point. There are 2 areas that really help us a lot, and that's the academic merit and then the WUI, which is the Western Undergraduate Exchange for the Western United States, those 13 states. If we take somebody from California, Arizona, Nevada, almost half of their out-of-state tuition is covered through this WUI program, and that doesn't come out of our 9.9, which is very helpful for us. We didn't have that when I first got there, and it would kill us. And Boise and Wyoming did have that through their colleges, and so it was a disadvantage for us. But yeah, we have to spread that between 30 wrestlers. And
What would you tell? I mean, I always say this, and I'm hoping you're with me, that telling these young high school kids academics is so critical because not only you want to do well in college academically, but I think that opens up a lot more options to coaches when they could give you, when you can get that academic scholarship, versus because you've got to divide those scholarships up.
yeah, it's interesting because we have several guys, both Lamonts, Matt Finley, several of our guys that are our top recruits are on academic. We have several guys that are above a 3.8 right now that were freshmen last year, and our team GPA was a 3.26 last semester and 3.23 overall. For a wrestling program, that's very good, and it's our expectation. We're going to have 1 or 2 guys that we're going to recruit that maybe are a little bit of a red flag there, but only because our support system there is really strong, and so we're able to help a lot of these guys. What we need to see when we're recruiting them is how serious are they about getting their degree. And if they are, and we know that they have the work ethic to do that, then we'll go ahead and go with them. We actually have a handful of guys that are doing better in college than they did in high school just because they have that support system. Our administrative support has been amazing the last couple of years at Utah Valley. So, but you're right, it helps us. Anything helps where we're not coming out of our account.
Greg brought up a name, Matt Finley. When's he back?
He's back. You probably missed that when we were.
I probably did.
Yeah, he's back and looking good. Hey, Greg, tell us a little bit about your schedule this year. Looks like we have quite a few home meets, and what are these home meets, and maybe some of the other highlights of the schedule.
Yeah, I would encourage everybody to go to our site and look at the dates. We have 7 home duels this year, which is at least 2 more than we've had before, and we have our UVU Open again. But the great thing is we have some really good teams coming in. Oregon State and Stanford are both top programs now. They're the top teams in the Pac-12. Borelli has done a tremendous job at Stanford in the last 3 years. They've just gotten better and better, and they're a top 20 team, and they have some top-ranked guys now. So we're excited to have them back out. And then Oregon State, we beat them last year when they were ranked 18th, and I'm sure they're going to want to, get some revenge if they can. And so that'll be an exciting match. They're always good. That was the first time we've beaten them. So it's good to have them. Wyoming's going to be in, and they're always a tough match for us. Thanks, Kurt. And then we also have North Dakota State at home. We're going to do home and home with them this year because they missed out on wrestling us here. They had some flight problems last year. We're also excited about wrestling. Boise, of course, is our rival match, but we're away for that this year. And then UNI is one of our first duels, and so we got them back on our schedule. We got the Southern Scuffle and Vegas. I mean, it's a tough schedule. Our guys aren't going to have any easy matches, and that's kind of how we want it. That's what we've been shooting for from day one, is to have a super tough schedule.
Now we're competing in the Big 12. I suspect down the road that we're going to be setting up these home-and-home duels with Big 12 schools. Is that?
Well, we passed in our May meetings. I actually proposed for this because I felt like it was something we needed to shoot for. And kind of got tabled the year before. But it passed that we're supposed to, starting in a year, wrestle everybody else in the Big 12 every year in a duel, which means that we're going to at least every other year, we're going to have Oklahoma State here. Every other year, we're going to have Iowa State or West Virginia. Or
that's real exciting.
That still hasn't happened. I'm on that committee. We haven't been contacted by the Big 12 yet as far as when we're going to actually try to decide that. Those matches should be, it'll probably be the month of January and the first of February, trying to map that out. Big 12 sent out a thing on Fresno State because they'll start next year with their matches, and so they're talking about whether or not to add them to the Big 12. And when they sent that out, I sent a reply to the guy who's over Big 12 wrestling and asked him if we're going to be discussing that soon. So it has passed, but it hasn't been set yet. So
you get
not to.
One second. Do you get a chance to see many of those guys though at some of the tournaments, or is your first exposure to Oklahoma State and things at the conference?
No, we'll see them a little bit. This year we're not going to be at the Reno tournament with our starters. We saw some of their starters there last year, so we got a chance to see them then. We see some of the guys when we go to the Vegas tournament. We'll see some of them when we go to the Scuffle. We're
not taking our starters out, or they're not taking their starters.
We're not taking our starters to Reno, and they don't take all of their starters to Reno. They take certain.
I was going to say that's a fun one. I was going to recommend. Fans get down to Vegas, get over to Reno. I think Reno's a fun one because you got the high school tournament going on. There are close abouts with the college thing, and it's a fun time. I went out a couple times and support the boys. I think if you want to take a look at some of our younger guys that are redshirting, go to the Open, get there, and watch that, and really see the future.
It is, and we'll have some really good freshmen there competing. But we wanted to get to the Scuffle this next year, and we want to start being at either Midlands or Scuffle every year, and they're too close together over Christmas break for us to do both.
So, is there any match limits by the NCAA, like we have in high school, or is it just as many as you want to fit in, it's good?
No, it's 16 contacts is your max, 13 is your minimum. If you have a 2-day tournament, you can count one of those as 1 day. You can count one as a 2-day. So since we're at the Scuffle and we're at Vegas, we'll count one of them as a 1 day and one as a 2. And so I have to add those up, and we're usually right around 15. With our budget, when I first started, we were at 13 every year, but now we're able to do whatever it is we need to do.
Okay, so got the banquet ahead. We've had the golf tournament. You feel as a program you're in a pretty good financial situation. They said you want to pay your assistant coach as well, and go to the big tournaments and have enough money for that. You feel comfortable. I know you always feel like you need more money. What program doesn't? But
yeah, there's several arms that we have for the future of Utah Valley Wrestling, and some of those arms haven't even been touched. Endowing the program, that's huge. Getting a facility that's a wrestling facility, that's huge. Those are big money items that we're a long way away from. We don't have a big donor. We don't have several mid-major donors. But USA Utah has helped us with the events that we're doing that for the coaches. And that's been huge. And yes, we've been able to raise enough each year to be able to do that, and even a couple things with our college guys with our university nationals so that we're able to travel and do those things. So the help that we've had for those events, those are big. The next step that we're hoping for is a regional training center where we're having top-level guys in training. And if I can add another guy to that, then that's only going to make our program better because it means our best guys are wrestling with guys who are wrestling internationally. That is part of one of the pieces of the USA Utah national coach. One of this new thing, and I've seen some of the applicants, and they're great guys and they've been successful, but one of the pieces is missing for some of them because they're not still wrestling, they're not still competing. And that needs to be a piece of this because we want them to be in working out with our guys, and it's a way we can do that but still pay them for something that's going to help the youth wrestling in Utah.
Well, let me ask you, and I don't know how this is going to go, and I'm just eagerly awaiting your answer, Greg. You maybe see me on Facebook, and I would really like to see another Utah, university college get wrestling. I think that that would be exciting. How do you feel about that, or something that the Utah wrestling community should shoot for, or because when me and you wrestled way back when, there were a few colleges and opportunities. You were a great wrestler. I was a scrub, but as a scrub, I got an opportunity. So
yeah, no, Brian, it's this comes up all the time, and my first year coming out from California to Utah State, there were 7 programs, 4 Division I and 3 junior colleges. And the next year there were 4, and it was just 3, and it was 3.
It was 3 when I started. I'm a few years younger than you, so.
Or 4? No, because the U dropped too. So
yeah, the only ones I remember were Utah State and Weaver and BYU.
Yeah, those 3, and then it's. We all want more programs.
I just hope I'm not saying that something sacrilege. I had one of your coaches there says, "Well, Brian, why don't you support UVU?" And I said, "I do wholeheartedly. I hope you know that, Greg." I just want more. I want to be greedy. I think
When people bring this up, I listen, and I'm very interested in what they have to say about it and the purposes behind that. But just like you said, when we came through, there were several programs. I want more opportunities for wrestlers to wrestle, especially Division I. There's not that many Division I schools. I want, if they're not, then junior colleges and so forth. But my feeling is, as far as financial support, which is part of what you're talking about, I want to see UVU be where it needs to be, and then
I understand that completely. It's just like. I'd like to see where you don't have to be super elite to wrestle, and I think that's it. You see that nationwide. It's
I think.
How about it? You're just a state champion, or you placed at state. It'd be just kind of fun, like every other sport. You don't have to be a star, to go wrestle or go play football and stuff like that. And so I guess that's my dream.
Yeah, but I've said, when people have asked me specifically, I've said, hey, I would love to have a junior college right now, Slick, or, get a program there, because you have another feeder program. And so right now, when I have a kid who's not quite where we want him to be, like Ross Taylor is a perfect example. When Ross won a state title as a senior in high school, he's from Enterprise. He wasn't at the level that I would want him coming in. It would have taken a lot of work. He hadn't wrestled much in the off season, as far as like Fargo and stuff. I think he did it 1 year. So he went to a junior college first. He went to Western Wyoming, put 2 years under his belt, and then he was better. Came in his room, and it was still a project, but he was such a hard worker. He was able to make some good jumps, especially last year. So I would love to have a feeder program, and I don't think it takes as much to run that. It actually brings in more money for the school, when you start weighing those decisions. But I would love to see more programs. There's no question. But I want to get this program, as the head coach, I want to get this program on the map where we want it. Top 10 program year in, year out, battling for a title.
How far are we away from that top 10, top 20? How do you see UVU in I guess the immediate future, somewhat
well,
immediate future?
Yeah, when I was mentioning we're going to be somewhere ranked, if we don't have injuries, and again, I have to knock on wood on that, because we don't have the depth, and bringing in what we are, we're going to have a little bit more depth. Like I mentioned, what we have at 133 and 141. But I expect us, by the 3rd year from now, I expect us to be in the battle for that we can taste that or be there. Like I said, if our guys are healthy, I expect us to be there. And we'll still have a couple more years with each of those guys, and I think we'll just continue to grow from there. This has been what we've been working for all along, and we're getting very close.
So it seems like we're just about on the cusp.
Yeah.
Some really huge things. And I think, it sounds like the California kid, Taylor, they would be like 4-star recruits, right? I don't know, that's maybe a football term, but
Yeah, if
these
you
are
have,
recruits that everybody in the nation wants, and imagine so, right?
so to put it in perspective, we've never had more than 2 in our room at the same time. That would be considered a 4-star if you went on a 4-star, basis. Um, that would have been recruited, had done well at nationals, consistently well at nationals. We've never had more than 2 in our room at one time, and now we have 6 or 7. So
That's exciting. That
it's
is
a big difference.
incredibly exciting. Um, so for this year, what should the fans expect? I mean, do you have any overarching goals and stuff like that as far as winning season and duels, or how you want to finish the scuffle, the Big 12 NCAAs?
Here,
Just kind of talk about this year. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that, and I get asked by my sports information director every year on this. But here's my philosophy on this. Number one, I have my own goals inside that I would like to see.
Yeah.
Those are mine and my coaches, because I'll share it with them. My wrestlers' goals is what they believe they can do, and we have them set individual goals, and they'll believe, they'll set up a team theme for the year and what they want to motivate them. But if you've looked at our schedule and looked at my, as a head coach, dual record, you'll notice that I don't really focus on that. I'm focused on getting the toughest schedule possible, and my goal is to get as many guys to nationals as possible and to get guys on the podium. So I don't care what our dual meet record is. What I care is that we're wrestling our very best at the Big 12s and at nationals. I thought we did a great job with that this year. And so I think the fans can expect some really great matches at home. They're going to see our guys fight. We're not going to be the ones getting called for stalling at the end of the match. And if they are, we're going to have some issues back in our room. But we feel like we made a huge step between the last 2 years of being the aggressors and knowing our condition was better than the guys were wrestling, and knowing that that could make a difference in the match, and it didn't have to do with how they did in high school or how they're doing right now in college, our opponents. So
fans, get to these meets, and I know as coaches, me and you, it might scare you, Greg, have very similar philosophy. I don't think as a high school coach my dual meet record was the greatest, but I didn't really care. I wanted to peak at the end, get kids on the podium, stuff like that. And hopefully I did okay with that. But let's make those Hall of Fame announcements. Maybe talk about the 3.
Well, before we do, Greg.
Okay, go ahead.
Tell us when the Hall of Fame is.
Yeah,
that kind of stuff. How people get involved, how they can donate, and then let's hear the new inductees.
I'm sure there's a link on USA Wrestling Utah to buy tickets to the Hall of Fame banquet and stuff like that.
There is, and I'm gonna let Brian talk about the 3 guys that were inducted. But it's on November 1st. It will be at Utah Valley in the ballroom where we've had it in the past. And I believe it's going to start at 6 o'clock, but that will be out shortly. They can get online at WrestleUtah.com, which is the USA Utah site, and there'll be a link for the Hall of Fame. They can get on and see the past inductees. They've got a great Hall of Fame area where you can look at all of the past, and Brian's had a lot to do with that. He's our kind of historian. So, it's one of our fundraisers as well. We recognize all of the past greats, guys who have had an impact while they've been involved with Utah wrestling, whether it's a high school wrestler from Utah or somebody who came in and wrestled college here or somebody who coached here. Some great inductees, and that hasn't changed with the 3 that we picked for this year. But we also use it as a fundraiser, and so we do an auction during that. There'll be some big items. We are working really hard on having people who are supportive of our program that can afford it come and be involved with that auction and enjoy the evening and recognize the talent that we have in Utah. We recognize all of our youth accomplishments with Triple Crown and national awards and so forth. So it's a great night for Utah wrestling and recognition for Utah wrestling, and Utah Valley is just really, really pleased to be able to be the ones who host that.
So it's going to be a fun evening. Now there is one young man well, I consider him young because he's younger than me. That's a Hall of Fame guy that I'd probably want to defer to you, Greg, to talk about because I think you're more familiar with him. I think you were a coach at the rival school, when he was wrestling, and that's Travis Gittins. He's going to be one of our Hall of Fame guys. I just know Travis was a stud. I think he was a 2 or 3 time state champion. And I know he's done a lot of great things outside of wrestling with his life that are very honorable, very Hall of Fame-ish.
Yeah.
Go ahead and talk a little bit about Travis. So he's our first one.
I love Travis, just like if he had wrestled for me in high school. I coached club before I started coaching the high school, and he was on that club. And when I took over a high school program at Skyview, we were a rival school, but then I coached the Utah national team, and he was on that team for both of the years, that he was still in high school. Very coachable. There was a big rivalry because Craig Lamont was there at that same time, and they were in different weights, and they both ended up being 2-time state champs. So there's always this rivalry, but not between them. They were super good friends. And, I liked coaching whoever wanted to get better. So I worked with a lot of the Mountain Crest kids in the off season anyway, and Davey bought into that and was doing the same with Skyview kids. He would help be on our staff. It's one of the reasons why he was such a great coach. He just had a passion for wrestling. But Travis, he went on to Oklahoma State, did some wonderful things at Oklahoma State. If he hadn't had injuries, he would have been, somebody we would have been recognizing as All-American as well. But very, very coachable, strong desire, super talented, very intelligent, has done very well career-wise. And I think he's an optometrist now, and still lives in Oklahoma.
Yeah, I heard he's doing, I think he, pretty generous, I hear, with helping wrestling in Oklahoma, and that's awesome.
They combined Luke Lofthouse and him. They had them come out to Mountain Crest and do a camp for them this summer. I'm sure Travis donates his time. I mean, he doesn't forget. And I got a text just like 3 years ago at Nationals, or maybe it was 2 years ago when it was in Oklahoma. And maybe it was the third year, so 2.5 years ago. I get a text, and it was from him. He said, where are you? And we hooked up, just caught up real quick, and hasn't changed much, just super humble young man. And I say young as well because he's me, so.
Probably about 45 now. But
he's a great inductee. He's one of our inductees this year, and it was a great choice.
And our second inductee that we want to talk about is Robert Still. And kind of a wrestling legend, football legend at Orem High, and wrestled at BYU, and I believe he was a WAC champion there.
Brian, what is Travis's last name?
Gittins, Gittens, and then Still is spelled.
I got Still. I knew him. I used to rent a basement apartment from his brother.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Robert. There's like stories about Robert like hauling up a refrigerator up a flight of stairs on his back. That's how rugged and tough this guy was, and kind of a football and a wrestling legend in Utah County. And I think he actually started his coaching career at Payson High and had some good teams. But most notably, was the wrestling coach at Orem High, and he won I think 3 state titles in a row, and had some great teams at Orem in the late 90s, and was also the football coach there, and actually I think kind of crossed over and was kind of doing 2 at the same time, sort of like a Don Holtry type of guy, but just a guy who's produced a lot of wrestlers. He was I know Aaron Holker began his career wrestling for Robert Still, and then ended up finishing with Cole Kelly, and
Brad, he's one of those guys that you could actually honor him as a coach or a wrestler. He was wrestling at BYU while I was at Utah State, and he was very formidable, very competitive. And then, what he did at Orem with his coaching, they were a very dominant team for a few years, and very fun to watch. He had some great wrestlers coming through, and that he developed during that time.
Yeah. And then, I think the last one, I'm sure maybe Kurt would like to chime in on him, because I think we both were influenced by him greatly, is Jeff Winderland. Jeff started the Sundance Wrestling Club, and that was kind of a big club in the Salt Lake Valley. And I actually wrestled in the program and my junior high years and stuff like that. And I think Kurt, did you wrestle with Sundance or?
I wrestled at Sundance a little bit, but I was under Jed Jones.
Yeah,
I didn't know him, no.
Okay, so we're going to spell these guys' names right because it's bugging me. This is how I am. Robert Steele, Steele.
Nobody can see this right now but you.
Okay, all right. And then we got Jeff Wunderlin, Winderlin. Okay, so I didn't know if everybody was seeing this on there.
I am.
But Jeff, I think he wrestled at the University of Utah in the 60s. Late 60s with some of those great wrestlers like the Kava brothers and Sam Arashida, and then again, this started the Sundance, and I'll tell you who has been pushing for him is Greg Robbins, and you have a guy like Greg Robbins saying this guy really, made me who I am, and Greg was a Pan American champ who wrestled before he got hurt a little bit with Iowa and Dan Gable. I think the first Utah wrestler ever wrestled for Dan Gable, and he really said this guy was really a force behind his career, and I'm very glad personally that we're honoring Jeff this year. Because, it's kind of one of those guys, he has not been in Utah wrestling for a while. I think he moved to California or is living in California, but I'm glad he's not been forgotten. So, I don't know if Greg and Kurt, you got anything to add there, Kurt?
Yeah, I'm too young. The only guy I know on there is Steele, and that's because I was around for those Orem championships. They were pretty impressive during those years.
Jeff a lot with Jed Jones and stuff like that. And
yeah.
But when I first was coaching high school, we started wrestling, off season, and they were the club. Jeff's club was a club. Most of the good kids who were doing well were kids that were wrestling for him.
Yeah, I knew Sundance. I just didn't realize he was the one that started it. I knew they were always a stud program, and I wrestled there for 1 year before I started wrestling for you, Greg.
Yeah, so it's like, he was down at Granite High, and, Greg probably remembers the Lucero brothers. David was an incredible wrestler, the Robbins clan, and just a whole bunch of probably the best talented wrestlers in Salt Lake Valley went for Jeff, and so he had a lot of influence. He probably worked with the Jones brothers a little bit, and I think him and Jed worked together. So I think these are three awesome, incredible inductees this year. Very, very deserving. And again, Greg, tell us, do you know when the banquet date is?
Yeah, November 1st.
November 1st. That's easy to remember. And go to WrestleUtah.com. That's WrestleUtah.com, and they usually have a link where you could buy tickets to the banquet right there online. Easy to do.
Okay.
Available at the door that day, too.
All right, sounds good. Well, I'll be there for sure, Greg. Look forward to watching you guys this year, and I'm excited to see these new inductees happen on November 1st. Just want to tease real quick. I want to thank Greg, first off, for your time, for joining us tonight. And it was definitely informational for me and entertaining, so hopefully get some more fans in the seats for you at your home meets.
Well, I agree with all that, Kurt and Greg. Doing a wonderful job there, and I'm real excited about the future here. I think that we're on the cusp with UVU of some big, huge things. So
it's exciting.
Good things to come. Good things to come. Let me just tease real quick. Next week's podcast will be at the same time. You can find the link on highschoolwrestlingmatches.com. Or I think Jeff usually emails it out to his Utah wrestling list, or either way you can find it.
And I want to give you a plug for that's a cool webpage, Kurt.
Yeah, keep checking out the content we got going there. But at the next one next week, it's going to be exciting. We're going to have both Dad Lamont and Taylor Lamont on the podcast talking about Worlds. If you haven't heard yet, it was mentioned briefly earlier, but Taylor, who's going to be redshirting at UVU, or at least that's the plan, he just won a bronze medal at the Junior World Championships which is incredible. And so that's huge. So we're going to, in Greco was the style he won bronze. So we're going to have him and his dad on next week talking about that and some things there.
Yeah,
knows Craig.
Craig, don't forget to ask him, Kurt. I mean, I think he's probably, if not, one of the greatest, if not the greatest example of a father and raising champions academically, on the mat, service. You can't get much better than those Lamont kids, and I think he will bring to the table some wonderful insights as a parent, how to guide, wrestlers. So I think, especially if you're a parent and you stumble upon these podcasts, you'll want to hear what Craig has to say.
Sounds good. All right, we'll see you guys next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.
Thanks, Kurt. Brian.
Thanks.
Craig,
See ya.
good job.